So today I came into your class and watched you teach a lesson over nonfiction. Can you tell me more about how you did that?
Yeah, so yesterday we began our nonfiction unit, and I started with some nonfiction charts. So that was part of the direct teaching method that I did with the standards 6.10 and 6.6. They're working on summarizing informational text and paraphrasing informational text. And so part of the see it and the do it thing was we have these charts here, and I'll hold it up here. And they made these to put them into their interactive notebooks. So I have a big chart in the classroom, and I really like to hit on all the learning styles of every student. So this allows them to, they can use different colors if they want. They can draw little pictures if they want. Like one student here drew the little arrow. She was really creative. And then we also have text evidence tips on the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing and how to find the quote in the middle. And there's little arrows here. So as I was teaching it, we talked about each one. This lesson is actually a 2 to 3 day lesson, depending on how much time I have and if I have Chromebooks available, if I don't have Chromebooks available, and that kind of thing. So we get through this part, and they put it into their interactive notebooks, and they can use this to do the next step of the lesson.
Okay, which is?
So the next step of the lesson is the part where they get into groups, and in their groups, they will read a biography. I have chosen the grade level between 4th and 7th grade reading level. There's different reading levels, and so when I group them, I try not to group all of the high students in a group and all of the low students in a group and that kind of thing. So I put a variety of students.
So you have your special ed and 504 and your other students all grouped together?
Well, they're all just intermingled together.
Gotcha.
So some of my 504 students could be with some of my gen ed students. Some of my sped students could be with some of my gen ed students. They're all just mixed in together.
Okay.
They all help to support each other. They work very well together. And then so if one student needs a little bit extra help, I have that high student to help them out.
Gotcha.
And so they read the literary nonfiction biography. And then after they have read that, they write a 6-sentence summary on a piece of butcher paper that I give to them.
As a group?
As a group, yes. Now the catch to that is I put them in groups of 4, and each student has a different color marker. And that's how I make sure that everyone's participating, and I make sure that as they're working together, I don't have one student piggybacking off of the group.
Gotcha.
So they write all their information down. Each student has a different color. And then when they're finished, they have to draw a picture. The butcher paper is probably this big. And they have to draw a picture of their person.
Okay, let me stop you real quick. If someone's not participating, how do you deal with that?
So if I notice that someone isn't participating and they don't have a marker in their hand, then I will go up to them and I will use, my first go-to is always proximity. So I'll stand next to the student, kind of watch what they're doing, and I'll say things like, oh, well, I see that there's all kinds of colors on here, but whose color is missing? And then someone from the group always tattletales. Well, so-and-so isn't doing their part. And then I will ask them, well, what have you been doing? Oh, well, I've been coloring this. I haven't got to that yet. Or I'm waiting to finish my page. I haven't got to this part yet. Yeah. But normally when we do these group things, I don't have an issue with classroom management because they like doing collaborative work and they like working together, and they enjoy drawing the pictures. They really divvy up the work well. Okay. And so, I use the proximity thing, but most of the time they do what they're supposed to be doing. And then, so after they draw the picture and they have finished their summary, I give them the stapler and I tell them they can hang it. I leave blank space on my walls for these kinds of things, and I let them pick a spot to staple it onto the wall. Okay. And then we do a sort of like a gallery walk, so each group can go look at the different pictures, and then I just let them hang up till whenever they want to take them down. So, and then the next part of that lesson, depending on how much time we have in this class, it may go to the next day.
Okay.
The individual section here is each student is assigned to read a nonfiction book, just informational text that I get from the library. So this one's literary nonfiction, story form. The informational text is harder for them to read, and that's where the summarizing and the paraphrasing and the standard with the 6.10 comes in, because this, on their benchmark scores that I have here, so everything's color coded for if they did not pass, if they met expectations, if they mastered expectations, and then percentages written out here. Okay. And then, so according to this, I assign them a nonfiction book. They read the book and they pick one major event and write a 3/4 page summary about it.
And this is an individual now, correct?
Yes, it's an individual assignment. And then we have also been working on complex sentences, so I tell them that they have to have at least 2 complex sentences within their summary.
Okay.
And I always tell them, remember, your sentences have to have more words than your age, because they like to jip a few sentences and put "the cat ran." I'm like, that's not a nice sentence. So I have those high expectations for them, and then so they write that 3/4 page summary, and then after they write that summary on a piece of notebook paper, or some of the students who, like some of my sped students, they'll type it. Okay. And then they will draw a comic strip. So they'll take that information. This student wrote hers about dinosaurs and other first animals. And so she drew her information here and then took some of those sentences out of her summary. Okay. Or out of her book, and then she rewrote them and drew the pictures. She ran out of time. This is a very lengthy lesson, and she did not have time to color it. Okay. So there is another. So I've hit the kinesthetic, I've hit the auditory, I've hit the visual, and then so I know lots of students get lots of different things this way, and so it retains. I feel like that they remember this information more, and according to their STAR scores from their benchmark scores from last year, since they didn't STAR test last year, they made progress in this standard. Okay. And so really hitting on all these different modalities helps that to retain that information.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. When you develop these lessons, what are the stages, or how do you go about developing your lessons?
Okay, so when it kind of looks like, I had a chart here. It looks like a triangle. So I start with the big picture with my data.
Where do you get your data from? Like, what types of data are we using?
So I use benchmark scores from Eduphoria. Okay. So that's how I have these percentages here. And in Eduphoria, it has every student's data from previous years. Okay. So I can look to see what their weaknesses were, what they made progress in. So I use that data there. And then I also use my YAG, my year to glance, and I figure out, starting from, it's like a reverse triangle, starting from my data, and then I use my standards, and then I just work backwards from there. So I have my objectives that come next, and then my lessons that are the very last thing that I do. So I have the big picture, and then I just funnel it in to fit my students' needs according to the data that I get from their benchmarks and from their STAR scores.
Sounds like you did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Yes, and I really like that this lesson is student-led, because it's a lot less stress on me, and they get more out of it because I'm not just standing up in the classroom. Do you feel
like they learn more from their peers than they do from you sometimes?
Yes.
When it comes to things like this? Mm-hmm.
Yes, because like I said, those higher students can word things in a way that I can't, and they pick up on that. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. Get that time right out. Yeah.